Humility is essential for bringing order in your home. Pride will destroy everything that's good. I think everybody here would say, I want a good home. I want a good marriage. I would like to have good kids. Humility is the only pathway to creating good out of what could be chaos. So Proverbs 13:10 says it this way, only by pride comes... Now look at that word. Only by pride comes contention, but what the well-advised is wisdom. Now listen, whenever a couple it has contention, whenever there's fighting, I can promise you 100% of the time pride is involved. And in humility, you will see cooperation, not contention. Now, cooperation and negotiation may have the sense of fighting, but it's not. Whenever there's contention, you're not working well together. It's because one of you or both of you are filled with self, filled with pride. It was pride that destroyed the relationship between Lucifer and God. Remember what Lucifer said? He goes, I want to be above you. I want to be like you. I want to exalt myself above the stars of God. I think I'm better than you. And that pride is what destroyed the relationship between Satan, Lucifer, and God. It's pride that destroys every relationship, every church, every community, every country. Is somebody's pride is in the way of that unity. So here's why pride is so evil. It's because pride makes it impossible to see the relationship correctly. When the soul is filled with self or selfish motives, and we get really good at hiding that because we don't want people to know we're so selfish. Every conversation, every thought, every dialogue, every motive our words are shaped by what I can get out of the relationship, not by what I can give. It's the opposite of Philippians 2 where Jesus said, and Paul admonished the church, he says, let each esteem other better than yourselves. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. For example, if you're trying to negotiate with your spouse about something, the proud are not negotiating to get what we need. They are manipulating you to get what they really want. See, the proud think this way. My need to be right is more important than my need to be right with you. That's the proud. The humble would say, my need to be right is not as important as my need to be right with you. And somebody who's humble in the relationship has the attitude, at least, of saying, this conversation needs to end in what's best for both of us, not just what's best for me. Me parenting my kids or me negotiating with my boss is what's best for the company or for the family or for my marriage, not just what's best for me. Notice what it says in James chapter 4, verse 10. Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and he shall, watch this, he shall what? Lift you up. Look, God can do a better job lifting you up than you lifting you up. James 4:6 says, but he gives more grace, and we need grace because it's God's power, not our power, that gets us up. Wherefore God says he resists the what? You know why he resists the proud? Because they're impossible to work with. God can't work with them. I can't work with them. Your spouse can't work with them. Nobody can. And I know some people are proud because they're trying to self-preserve. But at some point, you have to humble yourselves at least before the Lord. And he will start lifting you up to a place of service for others and not just service for yourself. The best way to the top of the mountain is to humble yourself. And to humble yourself is to not make life about yourself. Pride is the root of Sodom's destruction. Listen, all the other actions of Sodom and Gomorrah were symptoms of one thing, the symptom of pride. Pride is what drove to that immorality. Because it wasn't about other people that they were serving. It was about what can I get to feed my own desires, my own imaginations, my own thoughts. So in marriage it only works when a committed man and woman humble themselves before God and each other and their attitude is, this is about us. When we're negotiating our next decision, we're negotiating anything, both of you should have a humble attitude to at least hear each other out. So here's one tool you can use. When you guys are at odds with each other, and this is really hard to do, especially if you're trying to push your own agenda, is let your spouse talk. Listen to her or to him. When I say listen, I mean actually you're not quiet while you're reloading. You're actually listening to try to understand their perspective or their viewpoint, if you can do that. And then repeat back to them what they just said to their approval. Now you're going to get somewhere. Okay? So what happens if you listen and repeat back to them what they just said to their approval? So what you're saying is this, and they're like, yes, two things happen. Number one, the other person feels seen and heard, and the relationship goes really far when the other person feels seen and heard. And number two, you're addressing the issue. You're actually addressing the problem. And when you're able to repeat back to them what they said to their approval, you don't get into this fight. You guys ever done this before? Where you're fighting about something, and then you misrepresent what they just said, and then they say, that's not what I said. And now you're arguing about what was said. You guys ever been there before? Like, that's not what I said. Well, that's what I heard. And now you're arguing about something completely different from the actual topic. But if we could listen in humility. So what you're saying is this. And they're like, no, that's not what I said. Okay, can you repeat back to me what you just said? Because I really want to try to understand where you're coming from. Because most of you, your spouse doesn't have evil motives behind what they're saying, but we assign them to them, and that's so unfair. I've done that to my wife. It's not fair. It's not good. We never get anywhere that way. But if we humble ourselves and we listen to our spouse, let them share their side, we repeat back to them what they said to their approval, and we're negotiating back and forth, we address the problem. Not attack the person, but we're attacking the problem together, we can come to a solution, and guess what? We can get somewhere as a couple.